History is full of wars, battles, and heroes. But today, we are going inside the darkest secret of military history. What happens when soldiers turn on their own commanders? Not in movies, not in fiction. In real life, on real battlefields, men made the decision to kill the person giving them orders. 7 stories, 7 betrayals, some out of survival, some out of rage, some out of pure necessity. This is Soldiers Who Killed Their Commanders. By late 1944, Germany was losing. The SS Panzer divisions, once the most feared fighting force on Earth, were retreating across Europe in chaos. But the officers at the top refused to accept it. Fanatical, merciless, they issued suicidal last-stand orders to men who knew they were already dead. So, some of those men made a choice. In the confusion of retreat, in the fog of collapse, enlisted soldiers turned on their own commanders. Quietly, deliberately, a bullet in the back, blamed on the enemy. Most cases were never recorded. The Wehrmacht had no interest in documenting mutiny, but historians have pieced together the pattern. Men choosing survival over ideology, one trigger pull at a time. The Third Reich fell from within, long before the Allies crossed the Rhine. Now let's go to Nazi Germany. Reinhard Heydrich was the most dangerous man in Nazi Germany, the architect of the Holocaust, Heinrich Himmler's right hand, so feared that even Hitler called him the man with the iron heart. The British decided he had to die. They trained 2 Czech paratroopers, Jan Kubis and Josef Gabčík, and dropped them into occupied Prague with a single mission: kill Heydrich. On May 27, 1942, they ambushed his open-top car. The submachine gun jammed. Kubis threw a grenade. It detonated under the car. Heydrich survived the blast, but then made a fatal mistake. Instead of fleeing, he stepped out of the car and drew his pistol. He was going to fight. Shrapnel from the grenade had already torn into his body. He died 8 days later. His arrogance killed him. The most feared man in the Reich, undone by the decision to stand and fight rather than run. Let's go to Saratoga, New York. The Battle of Saratoga, 1777. The British are holding the line barely, and the one man keeping them together is General Simon Fraser. On the American side, Benedict Arnold, still a patriot at this point, watched Fraser rally the British troops from horseback and made a cold calculation. He rode up to sharpshooter Timothy Murphy and pointed at Fraser across the battlefield. "That man on the gray horse is a host in himself," Arnold reportedly said. "He must be taken down." Murphy fired 3 shots. The third hit Fraser in the stomach. As he was carried from the field, the British line collapsed. The Americans won Saratoga. France entered the war on the American side. The revolution turned. One targeted kill changed the fate of a nation. And Benedict Arnold, the man who called the shot, would defect to the British just 3 years later. Now, we go to Russia. December 14th, 1825, St. Petersburg. A new Tsar. Nicholas I is about to take power, and a group of military officers have decided they will not allow it. These were not common soldiers. They were noblemen, veterans, men who had fought Napoleon across Europe and come home with ideas about freedom, about constitutional government, about what Russia could be. On the day of the coronation, they marched their regiments into Senate Square and refused to take the oath of loyalty. They called for a constitution. They called for the end of serfdom. They stood in the freezing cold and waited for the rest of Russia to join them. Nobody came. Nicholas crushed the revolt within hours. 5 leaders were hanged. Hundreds were exiled to Siberia. but the Decembrists became martyrs. Their failure planted a seed, a revolutionary idea that would grow for the next century until it finally burned the entire Tsarist system to the ground. Let's move over to Japan. April 18th, 1943. The Pacific War is turning, and the United States has just intercepted something extraordinary, the exact flight schedule of Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, the architect of Pearl Harbor. President Roosevelt was briefed personally. The question was simple: do we kill him? The risk was real. If the Japanese realized their codes were broken, they would change them, and America would lose its greatest intelligence advantage. Roosevelt approved the mission anyway. 16 P-38. Lightning fighters were sent to intercept Yamamoto's transport plane over the jungles of Bougainville Island. They shot it down. Yamamoto died on impact. It was the first state-sanctioned assassination of an enemy commander in American military history. Cold, calculated, precise. And it worked. Now we travel to Vietnam. The Vietnam War broke something inside the American military. By 1969, soldiers were fighting a war nobody believed in, under officers they didn't trust, in a jungle that offered nothing but death. And so, they started killing their commanders. The military called it fragging, named after the fragmentation grenade that soldiers would roll into an officer's tent while he slept. Between 1969 and 1972, the Pentagon recorded over 900 confirmed or suspected fragging incidents. 83 officers were killed. Hundreds more were wounded. Some officers were so feared that their own men posted bounties, cash rewards for anyone who would take them out. Fragging was the symptom of a military in complete collapse. A generation of men sent to fight a war that made no sense, under leadership they had stopped believing in. It has never happened to that scale in American military history before or since. 7 moments where the chain of command, the most sacred rule in military history, completely broke down. Whether it was survival, ideology, desperation, or cold strategy, these soldiers made a choice that changed history. History is darker than they teach you in school.